October 11th, 2019. After 3 dismissals, meaning they never had a thing on me for temporary restraining orders that were also non-jurisdictional, it was a con job to get me to spend money and take out loans in other people's names. Because when your children are in Australia, Monroe County, New York doesn't have the right to ever issue a restraining order or temporary one. They also issued them in the wrong name, and what harm are you doing to your children when they're on another continent? I'm called by the Monroe County, New York's Sheriff's Department. Ma'am, your registered pull-apart 22 is ready for you to pick up. We're even willing to drop it off to you. What time would you be home? I said, well, I'm leaving for Australia in 2 days because I have a training to take there, which I did. I'm a yoga instructor who had to have CEUs, and I had a training that I was set to take. That's the only income I was making. If you don't get your CEUs in by January, you lose your certification. So I also figured, as they obviously knew, I would use Australian jurisdiction against Monroe County, New York, and possibly be able to find an international attorney willing to sue Monroe County, New York for me, because this was all illegal to begin with, as many of you have received the video on from July 25th, 2018, where there's a Fourth Amendment violation. Read the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, and you will clearly see my kids were taken from me in a legal search and separation seizure situation. There was no reason, there was no arrest. Father was in Australia. Kids were denied medical treatment. That being said, I'm held in entrapment at this point because Monroe County is like, oh, well, pick up your registered weapon. I said, well, I have an infection. I did have a severe infection. Was going to pick up the prescription from Walgreens, told them that, and said, I'm headed to Australia in 2 days. I have to clear this infection. I don't want the weapon in my home while I'm out of town. Please keep it. They said, sure, we'll call you when you get back. I then hung up the phone, walked out of my freaking house, my condo that I own outright, which is why they wanted me to, get the home equity loan, because then you can push her into bankruptcy, because she doesn't have a mortgage you can't foreclose. 7 unmarked cars. You would have thought they were arresting El Chapo himself. All of the men were men. There was not one female sheriff there. I know that because I had to sit there in handcuffs in front of my neighbors who also own the property. Had no idea what was going on, but know what some of the situation is with my kids. Would not get me my prescription. I never got the prescription for 10 days in advance or afterwards. They were trying to kill me. That's what it feels like to me. Transfer me finally after a female officer shows up an hour later. Like I've said, I have no criminal history here. Judge Moran, they explained it to me. They said, Judge Moran said we needed to arrest you with all force possible or needed. I'm like, I don't even have a misdemeanor on my freaking record. Are you kidding me? They take me to his chambers. I was not given legal representation. How many parents are they doing that to Monroe County? How many property owners? And you lose all rights. So he sends me on a mental health evaluation to RGH, who turns out on a Friday afternoon, I'm supposed to travel to Australia, have spent thousands, and am trying to get legal representation in Australia to fight for my children. RGH doesn't have one doctor available for this evaluation. I was held in a 10-day false imprisonment. Put on a drug I had a lethal reaction to, can prove that through the medical records. Stop, if you are the media, representing or trusting these judges and the sheriff's department. We need to tackle a child trafficking ring. I used to work for Scott Rasmussen, and he worked as the AVP for the Golisano Children's Hospital in Advancement. Prior to that, I worked in the director's office as one of the very few that could cut it for 10 years at the Laboratory for Laser Energetics. Dr. Robert McCrory doesn't accept many secretaries. I got accepted. He even flew me to Williamsburg, Virginia in the Anomalous Absorption Conference. And, you know, gave me extra money when I was starting to go through my divorce. Helped me out in any way he could. I'm not a woman that can't read the Constitution of the United States of America. I caught these people in a child trafficking ring. The media needs to stop trusting these people. They are breaching violations breaching procedures that are children. If you have a child with a suicidal issue or any concern, you do not separate the only parent in the country from the child. You let them take them to the Golisano Children's Hospital or their pediatrician and get help. This all starts from a Fourth Amendment violation on July 25th, 2018, which I've sent the video out of. It's a cover-up. Internal Affairs covers it up. I've sent that video out. We cannot trust them. Stop giving the public false information through corrupt government. It's a fraudulent government, and they're siphoning family estates. I had no debt on the date this occurred. I worked full-time at Eagleville Golf Club for $12 an hour. Now, because I own my property outright, that's not a big deal to me. I could live like basically a millionaire. Work at a golf club, love life. He let Jerry LaCurcio and Donna let me do whatever I needed. If I needed to get my kids anywhere, I got them there. I was only there for 4 months, lost the job because the 1 week out of 52 of the year, this whole stint was pulled. And Kristen Splain is one of these people. She'll just sign any temporary restraining order. You can be a child pedophile, walk in without ID, and she'll give your kids away to anybody. And obviously, D'Angelo Ruhlman's involved as well as Lisa Saragusa and Chuck Saragusa, her husband. And I have notified the FBI as to what I thought Chuck Saragusa was doing with their investigations, considering the last situation with a man. He was in his mid-20s, 120 online victims, slapped him on the wrist. He had hit a prior offense. Turns out his wife was my child's attorney, who never called my children after they were illegally transported to Australia and couldn't tell me if they were alive for months. Let's stop bullshitting our consumers and property taxpayers, because if they siphon enough of the property taxpayers' family estates, this county goes under and it doesn't come back up.